Today we're here to talk about aircraft. Again. So Battlefield 6 has been out for roughly 2 months now. The day after the game released, I released a video talking about the state of the vehicles in Battlefield 6 and how it was, less than stellar. Since then, I've done a lot of playing the game. As of right now, my attack helicopter is at level 54, my attack jet is at 45, and my fighter jet is at level 46. So needless to say, I've used the aircraft a lot in this game. I've also made consistent use of the MBTs and IFVs, both being 50 plus respectively. That said, this video is specifically about the aircraft in this game because there are way too many problems with aircraft in the current state of the game. And this video was mostly inspired by another video that I saw on the platform created by fellow YouTuber Silk. Now, I took a lot of issues with the video that he put out, to be perfectly honest with you, because it felt like he just kept repeating the same points over and over again, and also left out a lot of direct issues with the aircraft in the game. And so what I really wanted to do was put together a comprehensive list of all of the problems in a much more neat format, so that way the feedback is more likely to get received and actually fixed. It's easy to come on and go, wah, woe is me, it was better before. Oh, and by the way, here's something they should fix. Wah, woe is me again. But like I said, I think it would just be better to actually lay these things out in a proper format. That's not saying that Silk's video is horrible. There's a lot of things in there that definitely do need to get fixed, but again, there's a lot of things missing. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing on our docket to talk about is the air radar and the size of the minimap. I'm not going to touch on this too much, as I'm fairly certain that they already know that the air radar is an issue. The fact that it's taken this long to fix is baffling, but at least they know it's there. Something I haven't really seen mentioned too many times, though, is the size of the minimap. In Battlefield 2042, which is the game that I hands down flew the most in, you were able to make your minimap almost the entire map of the level. And granted, this was in a game with much larger maps than Battlefield 6. Unfortunately, in Battlefield 6, your minimap size is way smaller, and you can't make it any bigger than a specific cap. This means that if you want to ID a lot of threats on the map at one time, you directly have to open your larger map using the M key on your keyboard, something that you really just shouldn't have to do. It takes you directly out of the game and takes all of your control away, when a quick look to the left-hand side of the screen should give you all the information that you need. I can't stress this enough, the minimap size is integral to pilots, and any pilot already knows this. So the fact that using the minimap for information, both not having the air radar to tell where people are, but also not having the ability to look at it to see where the battles are taking place and also where specific threats like the mobile AA might be, is really frustrating, and I hope they get that ironed out or decide to change it. Moving forward, let's talk about probably the biggest thing on here, and that's the idea of spawn killing along with the spawn AA and camping inside of your spawn. I don't think it's any secret at this point that spawn killing in Battlefield 6 is absolutely out of control. That said, there are a lot of people that just do not understand the correct things to complain about here, and it's driving me nuts. The sheer amount of social media posts, comments about it I've gotten in-game, and just general idiocy surrounding this topic is baffling. So let me just put it as straight as I can. If you are blaming players for the spawn killing in Battlefield 6, you are a fucking moron. Turn off the video, uninstall the game, you're an idiot. Alright, are those people gone? Good. Moving forwards. The spawn killing in this game is a direct result of DICE and their poor decision making, and they are the people to blame here. Blaming players for taking advantage of poor systems is not on the players, and it never should be. So, why is the spawn killing out of control? Well, it's because of a few simple things. First of all, the stationary AA gun that's AI controlled that's in your spawn basically doesn't do shit. Unless you're right on top of it, it won't shoot at you, which is a good thing, and we'll be talking about that in a second. But because of this simple fact, it means that spawn killing aircraft is really easy because these AA guns will never shoot you down. But the bigger problem is the fact that DICE actually did attempt to make a fix for spawn killing. They just did a horrible job, and it does the opposite of what it's supposed to do. You see, that AA gun that we talked about a second ago doesn't shoot down any fast-moving projectiles, like bullets on the jets or the attack helicopter's gunner. What it does automatically shoot down are any slower-moving projectiles, such as rockets or bombs. This means that if you want to bomb the enemy aircraft spawn or shoot rockets at the enemy aircraft spawn, you can't do it. So that's a good thing, right? Hell no, it's not a good thing. It's the worst thing that they could have done. The problem with all of your ordnance instantly getting shot down the second you fire it into the enemy spawn is that it enables enemies to just sit in the spawn with vehicles like the anti-aircraft or the IFV and become completely immortal. There is borderline no way to kill these people. It's not completely impossible, as I already mentioned the fact that you can technically use the jet cannons or the attack helicopter gunner to kill these vehicles, but it takes a while, and you're in the enemy spawn, so any other manner of things can be shooting at you, along with the AI-controlled AA gun. The huge problem with this is the fact that there are several maps in the game where the enemy spawn is almost within breathing distance because the map is so small. And before you come on here and say, well, this wouldn't be a problem because the maps are so small, you're also an idiot. Leave. Just get out of here. We could fix the problem. That's reductive. That's not helping. Leave. Anyways, point being, on a map like Sobek City, you can take off and see the enemy anti-aircraft tank in their spawn within like 10 seconds, probably less. And so it can lock you out of 80% of the map, and there's nothing you can do about it. No matter how much shit you shoot over there, it's going to shoot down all of it. That AA gun is so potent and so fast that it can even shoot bombs down out of your plane right as they drop, killing the plane instantly. I mean, come on, this guy's barely on the edge of his spawn and I try to bomb him and the AA gun insta-kills me. Did I do something wrong here for trying to stop the AA from killing me? I guess so. The point is, I think I've made it pretty clear that as things stand, the entire system needs to be reworked from the ground up. And there's like 50 different ways that they could fix this. But I'm gonna lay out what I think is the ideal fix for this. I'm sure people will have their gripes with it, that's fine. If you have a better fix, go ahead and leave it in the comments below, but something has to change. First of all, make it so that way the AA gun in the spawn no longer shoots down enemy projectiles. Seriously, this is just such a massive oversight and should not exist in the game. Second of all, make it so that way when vehicles spawn onto the runway, they are completely immortal until somebody gets into the aircraft and then roughly 5 to 10 seconds after they've been in it. I know people are gonna be mad, I know people are gonna be like, realism, but seriously, you should not be able to kill an aircraft before someone's even in it, and you definitely shouldn't be able to kill someone while they're taking off from the runway or sitting on the helipad. And finally, leave the anti-aircraft gun as shitty as it is right now, because there's a lot of people that don't understand just how problematic it could be if that AA gun started to be an actual threat. I say this once again because there are some maps in the game, like New Sobek City, where the spawn is literally right there. So if the helicopter just decides to fly 3 seconds towards their spawn, you can't go over there and you can't go kill them. That's a problem. And also, there are already examples of just how obnoxious this could be in the game right now. And here's a perfect one for you. The AA can get completely bugged out. Sometimes the base AA just decides that you are a permanent target on their radar, and it will endlessly fire at you even if you're nowhere near the enemy spawn. I've seen idiots claim that this is triggered by spawn killing aircraft, and I can assure you I have spawn killed hundreds of aircraft. That's not what causes that. In fact, in the clips that you're seeing right now where I'm getting targeted by the AA and just getting pelted even though I'm in the middle of the map, I never even passed the midpoint of the map to spawn kill anything. This can just happen. But the point is, you're getting a perfect representation of just how obnoxious it could be if flying anywhere near the enemy spawn started to getting you shot by an AI-controlled thing that you can't do any damage to. The answer here is not to make the AA gun better, I can assure you. Now, tacking onto the end of this, we could, of course, mention the fact that all of this would be way easier if we weren't spawning things on the ground and we just spawned aircraft mid-flight and didn't spawn tanks on the map until you physically spawn them from the spawn screen, because, well, that would pretty much solve all of this, and then we could just remove the AA guns from the spawns like we did in 2042, and basically none of these problems cropped up, but you know, that's not gonna happen because people will complain. Speaking of things spawning on the map, Let's talk about blocking the air spawns and camping the air spawns. This is another side effect of spawning the things on the ground instead of just getting them from the spawn menu, which alleviates all of this. Right now, as it stands, if you stand or place a gadget or are in a vehicle directly underneath where an aircraft is going to spawn, it simply will not spawn in. If you stand there for the entire match, the aircraft will not be available for your entire team the entire duration of the match. This already is a pretty big fucking problem. If a griefer wants to just prevent you from using your attack helicopter because they won it, or maybe you took it and they won it again, you have people just sitting on the landing pad fighting over this stupid fucking helicopter instead of playing the game. This is the dumbest shit ever. Battlefield is so back, baby. Yeah, is this what we wanted? Everyone standing on the landing pads? That's just Battlefield, lol. No, the hell it's not. We fixed this in the last game. Obviously, we could easily fix this by just making it so that the things don't spawn on the ground, right? But I think a better system would to be just spawn the friggin' aircraft on the people who are standing there so they can't block the spawn. This is such a massive oversight. I don't know how they missed this. If there's something in the way, just push the person out of the way. Push them under the map. I don't care, but they shouldn't be able to stand there and block the air spawns forever just to make sure that they get the plane or the helicopter first. And if you're wondering why people do this, well, it's pretty simple. If you stand there and then the timer for the vehicle runs down, it will show the vehicle on the spawn menu as being spawned in and grayed out. So once people stop clicking on it, they can move out of the way and get the helicopter or plane every single time. I'm not innocent. I do this. Why wouldn't you do this? It's just like the problem with spawn killing. The problem isn't necessarily people doing this, it's that the systems in place are so shitty that it allows people to do it. Regardless, something needs to be done about people blocking the spawns. I have the fix, but you guys don't want to hear it because it's not spawning on the ground, so moving on. The air resupplies. This system is awful. So right now, the way it works is that if you want to resupply your health and ammo with an aircraft, you have to fly back to your base and hover over a specific area. That or fly past it if you're in a jet. Doing so will instantly refill all of your ammo and refill a large portion of your health. It's not a terrible system in of itself, it's just the way that they made it that makes it terrible. First is the fact that the actual area for these air resupplies where you can get resupplied is very small. This means that in games where multiple aircraft are involved on maps like Operation Firestorm or especially maps like Mirak Valley, you have planes and helicopters all flying low over this small little area trying to get their ammo and health back. Meanwhile, a whole bunch of other stuff is shooting at them, and they all have the potential of running into each other and knocking each other out of the sky. There's no reason that a potential of 2 jets and 3 helicopters should all be using the exact same small-ass resupply point. This is a recipe for disaster, and I have seen hundreds of examples of helicopters and planes colliding trying to get resupplies and killing themselves. I believe Battlefield 5 did a similar thing with this system, where the air resupplies for planes were way up in the sky and not down on the runway, so you didn't need to skim the floor in order to get your resupply. If we've done it better before, why is it this way now? I have no idea. Anyways, to compound the already small area problem, we have a bug, or at least I think it's a bug, with the air resupplies, and that's the fact that the air resupply timer is shared across every single aircraft on your team in the lobby. What do I mean by this? Well, if somebody goes to the air resupply station and gets their ammo and health back, and then you go over there right after them, it won't work. You have to wait whatever the default timer is in order for it to recover to heal your aircraft and give you your health back. This becomes a real problem when you have several aircraft on the map at any given time. And it leads to a bajillion examples of flying over the air resupply where you have no health and you just need to get your HP back and it just doesn't work. And then you loop back around and you try to get your health and it doesn't work. And it doesn't work, and it doesn't work again. And it's just like, how the hell did they not see this coming? Why is the resupply timer not specific to you and shared across every single teammate? It makes no sense. So yeah, needless to say, at the bare minimum, they need to patch this bug out of the game. because having it so that way you have to sit over the air resupply waiting for it to heal you because somebody else just used it is ridiculous. But I think the most hilarious thing about the air resupplies is that, yeah, sometimes they're just not there. Looking at you, New Sobek City, where they just forgot to put one of these in. It's just not there. So if you want to heal or resupply your ammo on that map, fuck you, I guess. It's even worse on Escalation, where not only is the air resupply not there, but the vehicle resupply isn't in your spawn either, so you can't even use that. On New Sobek Escalation, there is no way to get your ammo back on the helicopter aside from waiting the timer. You've got to be fucking kidding me. Moving on, let's talk about the lock-on missile bug, along with the flare timers. So there's two separate lock-on missile bugs in the game right now. First of all is the most simple one, and that's that sometimes you use your flares, and the missile just hits you anyway. Fortunately, this is a lot rarer than it was in the beta, but as you can clearly see on the screen, this can still happen and absolutely should not ever under any circumstances happen. Using flares gives you the expectation that you will not get hit by a lock-on rocket. So if you use them and get hit anyway, yeah, that's a problem. But the other lock-on bug is actually quite the opposite. It has to do with people firing lock-ons. And that bug is the fact that if you fire a lock-on at somebody and they flare it, sometimes the game will let you lock on almost immediately. And if you fire another rocket during this timer, it will just instantly miss. So the game lets you lock onto a target and lets you fire a rocket that will never hit the target. What the fuck? I've only got one clip of this on hand, but this happens all the time, and anyone who's used lock-ons knows that it happens all the time. In fact, you're probably seeing it a lot in the gameplay that you're seeing, where I'm getting locked on and you can see the incoming missile thing pop up for a split second and then it's gone. This is the bug happening. Now, the funny thing is that this bug is the only reason that a lot of pilots are even able to stay in the air right now, and that's because the time that you have between using the flares and getting locked on again is really small without the bug. It's way too small, and it also makes no sense because, I feel like I'm saying this a lot recently, 2042 solved this problem. In 2042, if you had missiles fired at you, your aircraft would shoot out a set of flares and then shoot out a couple residuals afterwards, which blocked people from locking on. And then once that was over, you could get locked again and killed. In this game, you shoot out one set of flares, and then after that, you can immediately start getting locked on again. And if that bug wasn't there, this would barely be ever enough time to get outside of the lock-on range in order to not get hit by another rocket. I almost fear bringing up the bug at all because I feel like they'll fix it, but just not address the fact that you have no time after flares to get outside of lock-on range. And so you're just gonna get insta-killed. We're gonna get an update where they go, "We fixed the bug, guys, congratulations, now you can die easier to lock-ons, yay!" It's stupid. They need to fix the lock-on bug. The flares should really last longer if they fix the lock-on bug to supplement the fact that the bug is not there. You know what's a real bitch and completely broken? Laser designation! Yay! Everyone already knows this is a problem, but I don't think everyone knows why it's a problem. So let's get into it. As it stands right now, laser designators are really powerful. And in their defense, I think the laser designators should be really powerful. In fact, I would go as far to say that all of the effects that the laser designators apply to targets in their current state is great. If you don't know, the way that laser designators work right now is that if a target is designated, it makes it so that not only can you lock onto it with several weapons in the game that you ordinarily couldn't lock onto them with, you know, aside from the tow missiles and stuff that are bugged that say you can, but they don't work. Go figure. But regardless, things like javelins, the MR missile on the IFV, the AGMs on the jet and the attack helicopter, stuff that normally couldn't lock onto aircraft now can. Not only that, but it also increases the range that all lock-on weapons can lock onto the target, and it makes it so that way the aircraft is no longer able to go below radar in order to avoid missiles. All of these effects would be a great thing to apply to laser designators if the laser designator wasn't directly broken. So for those uninitiated, the way that the laser designator works is that you stare at something for 1.2 seconds, and then once you've done that, you can just stop. Yeah, you don't need to hold the designator on the target. You can just forget about it, and it stays designated for 20 seconds after you've used it. Why? As I mentioned in my recon video, as it stands right now, the laser designator is identical to the tracer dart. And it's funny because the tracer dart working this way would make perfect sense and would actually make that gadget potentially worth using. But because the laser designator just does what it does, but way better, there's no reason to use it. Anyways, the point is getting laser designated for 20 seconds by someone who's not looking at you that designated you for 1.2 seconds, something that is completely unavoidable and is hit scan because it's a friggin' laser, is bullshit. But what's even more bullshit is the fact that there's no indication when you're designated. Yeah, so while you're getting designated, it tells you. While the person is holding the designation, it tells you that you're painted and shows you the direction of where they are. But once they stop, there's nothing. All of the indications stop, but you're still laser designated for 20 seconds with no ability to see how long that timer is going to last. How the fuck did this happen? I don't have a clue. Someone can go up on a mountain and laser designate the entire enemy team's vehicles in like 3 seconds, and they're all designated at the same time. That should not happen. But if those things weren't the worst of all, the real hilarious thing is that the laser designator just goes straight through the wall. Yeah, it doesn't care. It can designate you through walls anyway, so it doesn't even fucking matter if they have line of sight. If they generally know where you are, they can just go boop, and then you're designated through the wall. Great, fantastic, awesome. That's so cool. I really don't think that you need like a rocket science degree to understand that you should have to hold the laser designation on the target in order to keep it laser designated. And if you are designated, it should tell you that you are, instead of just having no clue and then getting shot below radar when you think that you should be safe from lock-ons. That is fucked up. You wanna know what else is fucked up? The map boundaries. This one's bad. This one's real bad, and it doesn't even make sense a lot of the time. Admittedly, I think that the map boundaries are more of a problem for attack helicopters and transport helicopters than they are for planes on every single map except for Blackwell Fields. In a different video, I already talked about Blackwell Fields and the fact that the map boundaries for the planes are way too small for no reason. They need to make those map boundaries bigger, so I'm not gonna harp on it too long. Other maps that I haven't talked about, though, are maps pertaining to helicopters and the way that they handled boundaries here, because these make equally as little sense. Manhattan Bridge is the heli farmer map. It's the one where everyone ends up sitting on the landing pad and fighting over the attack helicopter. Because everyone's so busy fighting over the attack helicopter, they're not talking about the fact that the map boundaries on this map in terms of where you can go that's safe behind buildings makes absolutely no fucking sense. You wanna go behind this building? It's out of bounds. Sorry, buddy, you can't go there. Well, you can for about 8 seconds, but then it's gonna kill you. Oh, sorry, what's that? You wanna go behind this building over here? Yeah, this one's fine. You're allowed to go behind this building. Well, as long as you stay close enough to the building. And how about this one? This one looks good, right? Oh, no, oh, that's out of bounds, buddy. Oh, wait, is it? Oh no, I can, if I'm right up against the, who programmed these? Let's be realistic here, all right? Whoever went through, did you actually go to check what it would feel like if you flew a helicopter around on this map? Now, to be clear, before we go to the other maps that I'll be showing that all have the exact same problem, so honestly, I almost don't even really need to be doing this, these map boundary problems are not hurting good pilots, as they'll just go out of bounds and also already know the safe areas that they can go and the areas that are in bounds versus out of bounds. The real people getting affected by this are normal people who don't spend hundreds of hours flying around the helicopters. And do we really need to be nerfing the people who are already having a hard time in the helicopters? Because that's what this stuff does. It makes it so your random normie player has a harder time for no reason. Because they go somewhere that they think is safe, it isn't. They see the out of bounds timer, panic, and then either run out into the open and explode because they get hit by a missile, or they run into a building or something trying to get to an area that is safe. It just doesn't make any sense. Why are we nerfing like mediocre players? Meanwhile, the people who already have a ton of hours just go where safe and ignore it. It makes no sense. Anyways, I said I'd show off other maps. Let's take a look at Eastwood. All right, so one side of the map is a total death trap. There's no cover, it's just a flat open field, right? So if I'm getting shot by lock-on missiles, maybe I'll try going behind my spawn. Nope, going behind the spawn, that's a hill there, but that's out of bounds, so you can't go there. Well, if I want to flank, I can go left behind this hill. Nope, out
of bounds. Can't go there. Sorry, buddy. Better luck next time. Yeah, this entire area of the map on the left here that should be cover for helicopters and should be the area that they're using in order to flank the enemy anti-aircraft or just get a good run on the map itself, 80 to 90% of this area is out of bounds. And once again, to be clear, there's enough area here that's inbounds that makes it so good helicopter pilots just make use of the inbounds areas. Meanwhile, bad helicopter pilots die instantly because they get scared by the out of bounds timer. Last map we're gonna show off, Sobek City. This one probably makes the least sense. Because once again, if I wanna go behind our spawn in order to get safety via this building, out of bounds. Can't go back there. Why is the building even there if I can't go back there? But it's more egregious on the left side of the map, because this building right here, this is all well and good. If you want to go back here, completely safe. But this building, well, yeah, that's out of bounds. Or is it out of bounds? Yeah, if I get right up next to the building, we're in there. Oh my God, you have got to be kidding me. The building right next to it though, oh, that's perfectly safe, dude. Of course you can go over there. Why wouldn't you be? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Whoever designed the boundaries on these maps, they were not thinking about the aircraft when they made them. There's just no way that couldn't have happened. Regardless of all of the map boundary problems, one of the things that I also have to mention about the map design itself, and something that I've seen people mention a couple times before, but I think needs to be brought into higher attention, and that's the flight ceiling on these smaller maps that only involve helicopters. And the simple fact that these flight ceilings are way too low. The two standouts here are of course going to be Eastwood and Manhattan Bridge. Both of these maps respectively, I think they just copy pasted the flight ceiling, which is why they both suck. We can use the little teammate indicator right here to show us that the flight ceiling of both of these maps is only roughly 100 meters off of the ground. Now, to a non-piloting player, you probably look at this and you think it's fine. But to any pilot worth a damn, you immediately know why this is a problem. If you're not a pilot, I'm gonna lay it out for you. First of all, going up to the flight ceiling and being at the very top of it severely hinders your movement. The way that Battlefield games tend to work when it comes to getting to the top of the flight ceiling is that instead of just putting a wall or something, it's like a soft barrier. And once you get to that soft barrier, it makes your plane move like molasses and stall. On a slightly related note, there's also a bug right now where if you shoot rockets or bullets up at someone at the flight ceiling, it just won't do any damage. The same exact thing can happen out of bounds, where if you shoot a rocket at someone that's too far out of bounds, it will just delete itself. I hope they patch that, because it's really, really stupid. Same thing works for the helicopters. If you get all the way up there, you're going to immediately pretty much get stuck. And so this means that the flight ceiling isn't really 100 meters, as if you go all the way up there, you're not going to be able to turn at all. But the real big problem with having low flight ceilings like this is air-to-air combat, as one of the big things that gives you an advantage in air-to-air combat is height. And because the flight ceiling is so small, it never gives you the opportunity to get the height that you need in order to ambush or attack someone that's below you. If you're both at the flight ceiling, it's just like taking two action figures and smashing them together. The strategy goes out the window. Here's a great example on Eastwood where I was in a transport helicopter, and I clearly had the jump on this attack helicopter, but because I couldn't get above it, it managed to fly over my head when I went down in order to try to get maneuverability since I was stuck in molasses, and killed me instantly. I had every right to win this fight against somebody who didn't see me, and there was nothing I could do here because I just couldn't go any higher. But I think the most hysterical thing about this entire flight ceiling situation is the fact that I can only assume the reason that they did this is because they didn't want people sitting all the way up at the sky limit raining gunner fire down with the attack helicopter. But what I think they may have forgotten is that in this game, the Stinger missile has no Y-axis limit. No matter how high up you go, someone on the ground can always lock onto you with a Stinger. That's just the way it's been programmed. I think that's a good thing because it once again prevents people from doing exactly what I just described. But it makes no sense that you would program this mechanic into the game, but then also make it so you can barely go anywhere above 100 meters because, oh no, people might get too high and spam the gunner. Well, the Stinger can hit them up there, and they're not gonna have enough time to get back down before their flares recharge if they are all the way up at the sky limit and you're shooting at them. So, if that was the justification for making it so small, it's a really shitty one since it makes no sense. Either way, the flight ceiling, it sucks. They should definitely make it higher on all of the maps that just involve helicopters. This isn't a problem on the maps that involve jets because those maps already have much higher flight ceilings, and once again, it just isn't an issue. But for these heli-only maps, it's dumb and they should change it. The second to last thing that I wanted to talk about here in terms of aircraft is the transport helicopter just as a whole. I couldn't not talk about this because they perfected the transport helicopter in Battlefield 2042. I know a lot of people hate that game, and that's fine. You're allowed to hate it. But one of the things that you might have missed out on is the fact that the transport helicopter in that game was perfect. It got added way later into the development, and for the record, I'm not talking about the gunships like the Hind or the Condor. Those things were a mess. I'm talking about the Black Hawk helicopter that they added way late into the life cycle of the game. This thing could reasonably go toe-to-toe with other attack aircraft in the game if you had 2 competent gunners and potentially a repair guy. And it also had just enough health to the point where it felt like a flying tank that could take a bunch of damage, but also wasn't completely immortal and just never died. Going from that game to this game, with this game's transport helicopter, holy fucking shit, what happened? First of all, the thing is made of paper mache. If an RPG hits it, it loses like 95% of its health. If it gets hit by a tow missile, it loses like 95% of its health. But worst of all, the thing is damageable by all small arms fire, which means if someone just looks up at you with an LMG, they can shred almost half of your health bar and there's borderline nothing you can do about it. It's just a gun shooting at you. I understand why the attack helicopters are designed so that way they can take damage from bullets, and I understand that the transport helicopter should be able to take bullets in game modes like Battle Royale, which makes me think, good lord, I hope they didn't balance this thing directly around Battle Royale. But in the multiplayer, there is no reason why the transport helicopter should be taking damage from small arms. And there's a very good reason for this, and that's the fact that if you take any amount of damage in the transport helicopter and then get hit with an RPG or a tow missile or any other manner of free fire weaponry or guided weaponry that's pretty easy to land, you're just going to instantly vaporize and die. Why is it that way? It shouldn't be that way. Why is the transport helicopter so ass? But the real killer for me with the transport helicopter is the fact that the game doesn't allow you to point the miniguns forwards. This was a revolutionary concept that dates back to Battlefield 4! Yeah, in Battlefield 4, you could point both of the miniguns forwards, meaning that if you had 2 competent gunners or 2 friends you were playing with, they could both shoot at the same time at targets and made it way more effective. But in this game, nah, you're not allowed to do that. Screw you, man. So yeah, if you've got 3 friends or you've just got another random in the gunner seat and you want them to be able to shoot, no. One person gets to shoot at a time, chump. That's what you're getting. Tough luck. Because of how many things can kill you in this game and how many things are shooting at you in the helicopter, you have to fly around very fast anyway. Fortunately, they did do one thing good, which is they made it so if you ADS with the gunner seat, it will move with the helicopter, making it way easier to aim if you're flying more erratically. But the fact that the thing gets erased instantly, there's like a million threats, and it can take small arms fire damage, the transport helicopter just sucks, and it shouldn't. But really, almost most criminal of all is the fact that they still, to this day, have not given the ability for transport helicopters to spawn people out of them while the vehicle is full. This tech was in 2042, and they didn't even apply it there. So please, for the love of God, apply it here. A transport helicopter with 2 repair people and 2 people on the guns is way more effective, generally speaking, than without that. But when you do that, you lose the ability to have people spawn out of the transport helicopter and jump out onto flags. We have the tech from 2042. Just let people spawn out of the back of it and start parachuting if the vehicle is full. It's not that hard. It's fun to fly for like a couple minutes on the maps of Escalation where the transport is the only vehicle available at the start, but once teams start getting other vehicles and can start shooting tank shells or tow missiles at you, forget about it. You're gonna die. Justice for the transport helicopter, guys, because if people know what they're doing, this thing is just not it. And on a final note, I just had to mention it. You couldn't stop me. There's no jet loadouts in this friggin' game, guys. Still, like 2 months later, still no jet loadouts. Really? I think the most annoying part about this is the fact that the jets don't even get a repair system, and sometimes when you get disabled in the jet, you just instantly eat shit because you're on a downwards trajectory anyway and you can't pull up. DICE, even if you're not going to add any jet loadouts ever, at least give the planes a repair system, so if they get disabled, they can fix it and pull out of their instant death tailspin. Thanks. Anyways, that took a while, but those were all of the issues currently in the game for the aircraft. I hope that was comprehensive enough to make it so that way, hopefully, if a developer or someone sees it, they can sort some of this stuff out, because the state of the aircraft right now is not good. Now, there are a couple things that I didn't mention, and so this is my opportunity to talk about those and why I didn't mention them. There's a lot of people that complain about the RPG speed in this game, along with the ease of use in terms of tow missiles, and so those are two things that I wanted to address now, and I didn't talk about in the video itself. First of all, I agree with you. To an extent. I think the RPG is way faster and much more annoying to deal with than it's ever been in any other game. And the tow missiles are way easier to use and much more annoying to deal with than any other game. That said, as a pilot, while these things are annoying, as a Battlefield player and as someone who looks at the big picture of things, I actually don't think that these things are bad at all, and in fact, I would go as far to say that I think they're healthy for the game as a whole. The reason I say that is pretty simple. Helicopter pilots and jet pilots going 80-0 every single round because all of the tools that they have to deal with enemy aircraft just don't hold up is not a good thing. And the fact of the matter is that the only reason that there's so many people complaining about the RPG speed and ease of use in terms of tow missiles is that these are people who have been coddled game after game after game. And so they're not used to getting killed and having to wait constantly over and over again for their helicopter. And they're never going to spawn in as infantry or spawn in another vehicle in order to play that. They'd rather sit there for minutes at a time not playing the game, waiting for their vehicle of choice and then raging when they get killed by one of these things again. The fact of the matter is, it's healthier for the game if someone who's less skilled on the ground gets a lucky shot with an RPG and decides to dedicate their entire round shooting tow missiles at you and actually can see success. Because the reality of the day is, while you're focused on trying to deal with those people, the rest of the lobby is able to, well, play the game. I know this is hard to accept for a lot of people, but this is reality. You're not the only person playing this game. There's 30 other people other than you and your buddy in the attack helicopter, and if you guys are just immortal, having actual counterplay in this game is a good thing for the game, even if it annoys you when you get killed by it. I will make one distinction though, and that's that I really think they should remove the guided ammunition from the tank, as I just don't think that it should have that, and having every single main battle tank on the entire map be a potential threat feels kind of stupid. One of the other things that's very similar on that vein is the overall fast time to kill between aircraft, both to each other and other vehicles taking out aircraft. This is once again one of those things that I agree with you. It's really annoying to just die out of nowhere to a jet that I couldn't see, thanks no air radar and small minimap. But just dying instantly with no chance to react is very obnoxious, especially when it's someone that's clearly not as good as I am at the plane. That said, as I already mentioned, this is something that's healthy for the game. If someone who's worse than you can sneak up on you, get lucky, and take out the guy going 58-0 in their attack jet, that's good for the game because now that guy isn't completely destroying the game for everyone else. And it's not something that's completely uncounterable either. If you're using the fighter jets and you're good at them and you know what you're doing with thrust vectoring, you can outturn pretty much anyone that would ever reasonably do that to you anyway. And because of the way that the attack jet turning works, if you're slowing down after using afterburners, you can outturn anyone in the attack jets if they don't know what they're doing. So it's not like there isn't any skill involved, but having the potential to get killed quickly in these things instead of just going on massive kill streaks every round is, while annoying for people who are used to being able to do that, good for the health of the entire game and its player base, even if you don't like it. This is a big picture game, you're not the only person playing, and a lot of people seemingly just don't understand that. On a final note, the last thing that I want to talk about in this sort of section of things that don't matter, that I've seen a lot of people talking about whether or not DICE did a lot of these decisions on purpose in order to pander to the exact things that I was just saying. thing. And I think there are some things, like the 3 things that I just mentioned, that absolutely were done to pander to a crowd that doesn't like dealing with aircraft and wants to feel like they have a chance against them. That said, I also think it's ridiculous and a complete tinfoil hat theory that DICE has particularly designed all of these systems to make sure that it's impossible to fly aircraft. And there's some things specifically that I'm going to talk about that make no sense and sort of debunk this theory. First, let's talk about the out of bounds areas, because I've seen people mentioning stuff like Blackwell Fields and other maps with small out of bounds areas as directly designed to make it impossible for aircraft players to use the aircraft. And the reason that I think this is pretty quickly debunked is once again the fact that good players are not getting killed by this stuff. I've already found several routes on pretty much all of the maps of safe areas that I can go to, and even unsafe areas where I can take a quick pit stop and make use of my out of bounds timer to be in an area that I otherwise couldn't be. If their goal was specifically to make it so you can't go back there, then all of these areas would be off limits. But they aren't. It's clearly an oversight and not some sort of change that was made in malice in order to make it harder to fly. It's the exact same thing when it comes to the flight ceilings. If the idea of the flight ceilings was to make it so that way it was just really easy to take out aircraft, then why aren't the helicopter flight ceilings smaller on maps like Murak Valley, Firestorm, or Liberation Peak? If they wanted to make it so that way you just instantly got killed when you got in a helicopter, why aren't those maps smaller? They've already demonstrated that they have the technology to make different flight ceilings for helicopters and planes, so what's going on here? The point I'm trying to make here is that I think it's very abundantly clear that the decision-making behind the scenes at DICE are not being made with malice to make it so that way air vehicles are just there to look pretty and blow up in a huge explosion. I don't think that's what's going on here, and I think if you genuinely believe that, you're not paying very much attention. What's really happening here is that there's very obviously not anyone competent on the DICE development team that uses air vehicles. That's what's happening here. And so that's why we see so many oversights and so many problems that don't get fixed within a reasonable amount of time. If they don't have anyone over there who knows how air vehicles work and regularly flies air vehicles, of course they're not going to know a lot of these problems. To us who fly all the time, it's a no-brainer that the minimap is too small and that the air radar doesn't work and that the boundaries are too small and that you can spawn kill. But for Jimmy No Thumbs on the development team who's in charge of working on the vehicles, who flies 300 meters up into the air and gets killed by a Stinger within 4 seconds and never goes for cover, they're not going to know about any of this. They don't know what they're doing. Now, to be clear, this isn't in defense of DICE. I think it's unacceptable that they have nobody over there who has any idea what they're doing with the aircraft. I think they should get somebody over there who has an idea of what they're doing with the aircraft, or listen to people like myself or Silk or Ghost Gaming who all actually know what we're talking about to a much larger extent than the people who are making the game right now. But either way, the point is, I really genuinely don't believe that the people behind the scenes made these decisions to screw over air players on purpose. They were made with an ignorance and a lack of the skill set to use the aircraft. You're welcome to disagree with me. You're welcome to keep the tinfoil hat on if you'd like, but that's the way I look at it. Anyways, with that, sorry for wasting your time for the last huge section of this video. I just wanted to get those things off my chest. This video is over. Naturally, if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like and subscribe. Try to boost this up in the algorithm so that people will actually see it and maybe some of these things will get fixed. If you didn't like it and you've got a huge problem with a lot of what I had to say, obviously don't do those things. But do let me know what you disagreed with in the comments below. And with that, we're done. So have a wonderful day night wherever you are, and I'll see you guys next time.